All right, everybody, welcome. It's time for Friday Night Dinos, and I'm so glad you're all here. My name is Wendy Alm, and we're going to draw dinosaurs tonight. So it's a happening Friday night. We are featuring Doppelganger this evening, and you'll see over here I've got a sample painting. You can find that on my website, FridayNightDinos.com, and you can also download the image that I have on screen right there in the corner at FridayNightDinos.com so that you can print it out and follow along. A couple things. So we're going to start out. I'm going to draw dinosaurs. You have the option tonight to draw along. I highly recommend that you just watch and enjoy it, and then later it'll be on Twitch for a week, and you can watch on Twitch and pause it as you draw. So it gives you a little more time to draw. Thank you for shout out to Sophia for giving me that tip. And then let's see what else. After a week, it will go over on my website. So you'll be able to see all the past episodes on my website. So this is episode 2. I come back every week on Friday night, and we're going to get started. So Doppelganger, this one's painted in gouache, but we're going to start out with pencil and try to get this drawn in the next hour, and then we'll move into the dinosaur after party and start painting, and you can help me decide what to use to paint. So I'm going to get rid of my T-Rex growly head over here. The cat's afraid of it. She's behind me. That'll keep her off the desktop, and we'll just move this. Now I have set up in front of me the image that you see in the bottom corner over here. I have that in front of me. It's not quite the same, so you will see some differences as I draw, just because the angle that I did it when I did the photography was a completely different angle than how I have this set up. I painted this a few weeks ago, so just thought I would give you a heads up on that. So with that, we're just going to get started. All right. Let's see. Okay, so I first like to size where everything is and figure out where I want to put it on the page. So sometimes I use my fingers and kind of crop around my scene to see what I'm doing. And Mid Lebowski, hey, how are you? And I see somebody else is here. Welcome. My chat isn't up to speed yet as far as what I see and seeing who's on. So hi, everybody who's watching. Thanks for joining. I hope we have a great time tonight. So first thing I'm going to do is try to gauge where I want this dinosaur's head and how big it is. And I'll start with some big, loose, light shapes. So I know that his head is my main focus, but the piece is called Doppelganger because, like in Jurassic Park, when the dinosaur goes in front of the screen that you can see the shadow, it kind of reminds me of that. I thought it would be a lot of fun. So he ran in front of the lunchbox and said, wait a second, that guy looks like me. So that's kind of what we're going to do. I know that I want his head probably to fall in this space right here. So I'm just going to draw a big ovally shape just to kind of get the size down. And I know from that, and there his neck's going to come down in here. So, oh, my pencil's broken. Luckily, I have a backup. So I'm going to go over here, a little stash of backups over there. So I'm going to come in here and just draw the outline of his head. And then I know I kind of start looking at where everything falls. So if I can get his head in here, I can size everything else out. Now, I immediately look at this, and I know that this other head is so big that it is a little taller than this. So it's going to go off my square. I have two options at this point. I can erase what I did, or I can redraw where my square is. So it's really up to you what you want to do. If I were to gauge where this is going to fall based off of this information that I'm looking at in front of me, and I go, okay, well, I know that the height of his head in here, based off of where it goes, is probably going to come up to here. So it's not too far, but then I also want the box, and then I want the edge of the box, and I want the lid. So I have so much that's going to be off the page. So I'm going to bring the whole thing down, and I'm going to use my handy dandy eraser. Don't ever feel bad about erasing. I'm just going to use this handy dandy little eraser and erase because my marks are light and start over. So don't ever beat yourself up. Just get it right. If you can get the general proportions right in the beginning, then that's going to help you overall. And we can also go back and look and see, if I look at this one, I did put it a little lower, and he's smaller in this piece so that I have more of the lunchbox. Now, this lunchbox, I did cut the top of this dinosaur's head because I felt like it didn't need that whole story. So again, it's completely up to you how much story you want to include in your drawing, but you're looking at this whole composition and how you think it'll look. So that being said, I am going to lower this a hair. So I'm just going to go in here. Everything's shaking, including the camera. Sorry about that. I'm going to brush this off. It's not perfect. There's some lines in here, but this will get pretty messy. I have a dark 6B pencil. Now, typically, I'll draw with a lighter pencil than a 6B. Oh, this is a 3B that I have right now. I might use a B or a 2B, but I want you to be able to see these marks, so I'm using a lot lighter of a pencil. So I started him about here before. I'm going to drop his head down to about here. And I'm also going to make it a little smaller. I tend to draw really big and try to gauge where this is going to go and make big long spaces. So trying to keep my angles right, trying to figure out where his face is going to go in space, and gauge just a loose drawing of how he sits on this page. So I'm coming down here again. Now, one of the things that I thought was important, and I hope that I can get in and we'll see it, and I can tell you right now I can. I wanted to make sure that I get his little hands in, little dinosaur hands. So that was really important to me. So there's that, and this comes in here. And I might even make this a little smaller yet, and we can kind of size that out as we go. So just really sizing this in. And you'll see I'll get a little darker and really start forming things more as I go. I'm watching where things end, where things stop, where when I look at the image, is the front of his nose. So his mouth is open like this, and I start to look and I say, well, where is the end of this finger? And if I drew a straight line up, where does it end with the tip of his nose? So really, oops, I'm not in frame. Where's the end of each of these fingers, and where's the tip of his nose? Draw a straight line up and try to start gauging how all of that works together so that you can really plan where it hits and get it right. Look at the shapes in between. Don't just look at an outline and you're not drawing objects. I want you to start looking at what is in between the objects as we get going here. So now I know that his head's in here, the bottom of his jawline, wherever I end up drawing his jawline in here, if I cross it straight over, I know that the back of his neck is above that, a hair. And this is going to go upwards over here, right? And if I start at this corner of his mouth, we can start building around this. Now I still want to go in and again gauge how big is this Tyrannosaurus bone structure on top of here compared to my dino. And where's it going to sit? Does it go off the page? So I'll kind of block this in really rough. And no, it doesn't. Will it show the whole lunchbox? It won't, but I think we're going to get a good idea because by the time we've got his neck and his hands going to the bottom, you'll at least have an idea of what it is. You may not know exactly what it is, but you'll have a really good idea and you'll know that he's seeing himself. Looking back at the screen, I can look at the screen and I know that this is even too big. I will resize this as I go. I'm going to erase some of these. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't too big. So I'm going to go back in here and start blocking this head in to try to get our sizes and shapes so that we know where everything is in space and we can start building around that. So I'm looking for simple shapes. There's like a triangle shape in here where his ear is. And then he's got a little ear mark here. Now there's a triangle on the top of his head. And if you ever want to make sure that your angles are right, hold your pencil or your utensil, just hold it up and look at it, and then come over and look at it on your page. Does it match? Because if it matches, then it should be about the same angle. Looking at spaces where things are and really these bumps. So now I know that there is another, he's got his eye cavity, pretty deep eye cavity. It's kind of like an oval, almost looks like a jelly bean, like a big jelly bean. So I'm going to draw that in there so I can kind of get the shape of that. Then there's a little bit of a space, and right after that space, there's another oval in his nose. Now this one is a combination. It's half jelly bean, half sideways triangle, I guess, candy corn or tooth, or almost like a heart shape. I do see a little bit of a heart shape in that right there, which, hey, Valentine's Day is next week. I do have a Dino shout out shirt on. There you go. Dinosaur shout out for Valentine's. Isn't that cute? They're all in the shape of a dinosaur. Go West! Thank you. I like the new format too. I'm still working on format. I wanted to be able to show you guys. Over here you'll see a palette, and I'm going to have all of you who are watching. I see there's a bunch of you. Thank you for joining. You guys are going to get to pick what medium tonight. So start thinking about it now. We're going to have a choice of just praying watercolors, simple praying watercolors. You can find them not at Walmart. Go figure. But you can use any student watercolors. You'll have a choice of gouache or, as the ringer, I brought this in, colored pencils tonight. So, hi, J. Frederick Art. Thanks for joining. J. Frederick Art drew her first dinosaur. She went to a thrift store this week and bought a bunch of dinosaurs. She had quite the find. I was a little jealous. And drew her first dinosaur this week. So congratulations, J. Frederick Art, on your first dino drawing this week. I was so excited to see that. That was really fun. She shared it with me. She sent me an email. You can always send your art to me too, and I'd love to see it. At some point, we'll do some group critiques. It will be really fun. But for now, let's see. Okay, so we're back here on his little heart-shaped nose, and then in front of that, there's a space, and he's got a nostril. So by the time I build all these shapes in here, I realized that my nose was not quite as long as it should be. And that really helped me gauge how to size it right, how to see where everything is sitting. Where's the curve that's underneath in his jaw, where that yummy little squishy jaw thing, the squishy jaw stuff that I love. Like where's the divot that starts down at? And where does the endpoint of that little triangle, where the pink squishies in his moving mouth are, where does that hit? So that helps me really gauge where some of this stuff is. So I'm coming back here, and I'm going back underneath and back to the back, and we're going to draw this bottom jaw now. Again, if I want to make sure the angle's right, I hold the pencil up, I come over here, and I go, ooh, that angle's it's it's a little more straight up and down than I thought. And I come in here and I'm trying to make sure that I match this angle. So again, come in here, that's spot on. And look again, I want you to look at where's the tip. I'll point my finger on here so you can see where is the tip of his nose. Comes down, 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 down. And is this the right ending to his jawline? And it pretty much is. So now I'm going to go back to this heart shape, this loose heart shape, and I'm going to keep looking at where does that line up. His eyeball is right at the end of that. So there's where his little eyeball is. He's looking forward. I'm just going to stick a little dot in there where he's looking forward. And now I know that inside this ear cavity, there's another little shape up top, and there's another little shape down here. And that just helps us start to figure out where these shapes are in space. All right, so we're going to move on and start with his neck. Now, this one part, there's a ridge line that comes down where all his wrinklies meet up. And who knows, because, none of us have ever seen a real dino. We don't know if they had a big ridge of wrinkles along their neck. I'm guessing that they were kind of lizard, it might have even been feathered. So, it's hard to tell if they had ridges or not, is basically my point that I just went on a little tangent for. Now I'm going to go in here on the bottom of his little gobbly neck and kind of draw that in. I know that if I draw a straight line, if I look at this and I go, okay, if I go from the bottom of this over to here, his little gobbly neck goes above this. So I might even have this a little too low. I want to make sure that I place it well. So that little dent comes in here. And I'm looking at the space. What kind of space am I drawing in here? So if I were to look at this little area right here, and I look over at my drawing, and again, remember what's in front of me isn't exactly like what you guys have, but it should be pretty close. Do I have a Valentine? And dentists must make money. Boy, man, they do, don't they? Although, I don't know, these dinosaurs, they've got some rough looking teeth. This guy's teeth have a tint of blue on them. I don't know what he was eating that was blue. It might have been a giant blue frog, but he's got some blue teeth going on. So I don't know that he's paying enough for a good dentist. So we'll see. Do I have a Valentine? Let's see. I think I do have a Valentine. In fact, my husband is my Valentine. And he was so sweet. He kind of already got me Valentine chocolates from Eldora. So that was pretty awesome. Do you all have a Valentine? Dinosaur dentists do have short careers. They had a little bit of an asteroid problem. Okay, so I'm sizing out now the middle of this neck and where this piece comes in. And I can tell right away that this was not thick enough back here. I did not take the top of his head quite thick enough. So I'm just going to correct that a little bit. Go a little further on that. And still building these in. And then, so here is this little denty, and then we're going to come down, and what I'm looking for is he's got a little bit of he's got two little teeny tiny arms, but he's got some muscles right in here. So I want to make sure that I draw that little muscle going on. So we're going to go in here, come down. He's got a wrinkle around that teeny tiny little dinosaur arm. Poor guy, man. Could you imagine if he had big long arms, what he could have done? He would have been destroyer of the universe. Right? Okay, so dinosaur, working on this little arm down here and this arm. So again, I'm looking at this space in here, and I also want to look at where do these fingers end. If I draw a straight line down to here, that's too far. They've got to be more in here. So I'm just gonna kind of block in where those little fingers are. And then I know something's in there and here. And then I go, okay, what does this little negative space? He's an arm that comes down here and goes up. Now this knuckle that's on his finger almost touches the bottom of the hand. So I'm kind of looking to see where things fall and what those shapes in between the shapes look like. So just going on in here. I'm trying to make sure I'm following with the chat because I'm still learning with that, gang. So be patient with me keeping up. I also think there's a lag. So we'll see if I can figure out how I don't have such a lag with my chat. So here is his little chest coming down here. And up in here, there's where that yellow section, and it kind of has these lovely little bubbly things going on. And I have a general idea where his hand is now. And now I want to look and say, okay, I'm looking, what is the angle under his belly? Do I have the right angle? And how far is that line in between his left arm? And I can look down here, I'm going, okay, his elbow did not come down far enough from my view. So I need to bring this one up and this, do a little erasing, make sure his arm is aligned right. It wasn't quite right. Don't hesitate to whip that eraser out. There's nothing wrong with erasing. Go down under his belly, and then his foot, we won't even see it. It's going to go, his leg is just going to be right off that page. So go in here. Here's his big old chest. Move a little bit of stuff in there. Make sure his little hands are basically right. And now I'm going to come back over here and bottom of his eye, figure out where some of these teeth are. So right now, I know that if I pick a middle tooth or a couple middle teeth, I kind of look at where they are in his head and how big they're going to come down. There is a middle tooth here and one here, and I want to kind of start to fill these in. Then there's a smaller one. Now, seriously, guys, don't be hard on yourself. If you don't draw all the teeth correct or you have a different number of teeth, it's okay. Nobody is going to look at the dinosaur that you were drawing from if you don't show them. So if your teeth are off a little, he just broke one while he was eating something really, really hard. Some kind of other bone or whatever he was chomping on. I'm going to come back here. There's another one in here. Then there's one here. Then there's two more. And then a little space. So top teeth, done. Now we've got some bottom teeth. So I'm going to kind of gauge where I started with these two in here. And I'm going to go, what is right below it? Now these are a lot smaller. His bottom teeth are not quite as big. And I'm looking to see, does the space in between everything look right? Does it have a general idea of what it looks like? Am I faking it well? Hopefully. And then I'll come in here and put a couple little ones back there. I can see a little tiny piece of his tongue, but not much right there. All right. Above this eye, I think it needs to be a little higher. So he's got quite the ridge line going on down to here. And then right above here comes out. So his face was a little too, it was off. I just fixed it. You can kind of see how it's a little truer. I probably made it a little bumpier right here than it is. I usually like his nose to be a little more, I don't know. I just like his little nose to be a little bumpier. It just makes him happy. And then this ridgeline back here kind of dents back. And then he's got this piece. So there's his head. There's his body. There's a line right in here that's a big old wrinkle line. And from the top of his arm, there's like a bone that goes up into his body that's got a little bit of cool yellow coloring. This helps me figure out where this back is and the ridges on his back. And we'll come in and work on these a little more as we go. So we're just kind of still building this in, getting our dinosaur right before we do anything. Now I'm starting to look at where is this lunchbox? Where does it fall behind the dinosaur? Because we can start to build it, and then we can also start to draw the big dinosaur behind him. So the first thing that is easy for me to determine is I can see the edge in between his arms. So I'm going to go right in between his arms where the edge is, and the bottom curves around. And I'm going to come down here and just draw the bottom right to there. And I know there's a little ridge that goes behind his hands and in between here on the border of the lunchbox that again goes all the way across. Now this is angled, so it's going to go off my page, and that's okay. Is it the right angle? I hold this up. I'm going to come over here. Yes, it's the right angle. So now we're going to go straight up, and I'm looking for the left side on where this hits. Now, if I, make sure that your lunchbox goes straight up. Like, you don't want to have the edge of the lunchbox here and then draw the other line over here, because that does not make any sense. It's all wrong. So make sure that wherever you have this, just draw a straight line up, because that's the edge of your lunchbox. And I'm kind of gauging how far this is from this edge as well. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to stop because I don't know how tall this is yet. And again, where's the inside ledge of my lunchbox? It's right there. So again, and I'll stop a little shorter because there is a curve, but I don't yet know where that sits. So I'm going to try to measure out this head one more time. I know it's bigger than this. And so if I draw, so let's do this. If I draw a straight line up from the end of his nose, okay, and I try to figure out where on the head that is and how much space is in there if I were to draw an angle. So I go up here, and I know now where in the head that is. It's still climbing a little, not much. It's almost at the top. Okay, and there. And then there's these ridges. So again, I go up from here. Where is what ridge? How many ridges are in between each? That, we'll rough it. How many little ridges are in here? There's 3, there's 1 right here. And where on his head does this last one fall? So if I look above his head, where does the last little ridge fall? Now I'm going to go, well, what's above his nose? You guys may not be able to see this on yours. Let's see. Yeah, you can see part of his neck above his nose. So I look at where his neck bones on the lunchbox are falling, and I'm going in here and I'm saying, okay, Now I can see his jaw. Where does it fall on his nose? And what does the space look in between here? How far out does that go? Where does that sit? If that sits in there, and if it's about as thick as it's thinner than his bottom jaw, then where does that go? Right? And if I make this little piece right here, again, I'm looking at the shape. What does the shape look like and where does it sit? Now we've got to come down and we're going to come out. So if I draw a line, where's the angle where the end of his snout is going to hit? And then also where, so I know that there's a divot up in here. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that I draw the negative space in here. It almost looks like a little flying bird. There's a little bird, there's his nose. Okay, there's the back of the little bird. So I'm looking at this shape. I know I'm going to come out to here. I know that where the bottom of his jaw fits into his mouth, that bone goes up a little bit. And there's some little details in there we can pick up. So that kind of gives me a really good foundation for where this is. And then what does this piece look at? Like, where is and what are the angles on the shapes inside this bone? It's a bone, so it's got a nose cavity, it's got an eye cavity. You know, how do those sit within this bigger shape? How big are they? And then if I gauge where those are, there's one going to be in here. I know that it's above this curve. It never goes beyond that. It comes down right in here and it curves around. So if I draw this guy in here, now I've got that idea. And I want to kind of gauge, this isn't quite right in here. So it's going to be a little higher, which is fine. And then where do these go? And we're back to the back again. So really just trying to space this out. This comes down right there. And then there's a bump. And where is that bump? Bump is early on. Then there's a divot. Then it comes down. And then it comes up again. And then there's a little round piece right in here. So I want you to look at all these shapes and figure out. Oh yeah. Let's see. Wendy's angles are closer than they appear to chat. Okay, this must be a joke. When did you first fall for the T-Rex? That's a good question. Okay, so first on the camera angles. I'm still working it out. It's not quite angled right. So you're not seeing it quite at the right angle. It is skewed. My screen is skewed like this because of the angle of the camera. But last week's episode was a fiasco with me moving the camera. So I thought, let's try and put it somewhere else that I don't touch it or run my big old head into it. Especially since I had the dino mask on at the beginning. Like, woo, that's crazy. When I first fell in love with the T-Rex, oh my gosh. So my first encounter with the dinosaurs was in 2018. And I was painting plein air in Moab, Utah. And I had gone out and I thought, you know, I went to the little hardware store and they had a whole section of dinosaurs. Allosaurus was my first dinosaur, and I'll bring him out at some point. But I thought it would be really fun to go paint these landscapes and put a dinosaur in front of the painting as if it were in the scene. So I would do these paintings of the beautiful land out in Moab, Utah, and then I'd take a photo, but then I'd also take a photo of the dinosaur in front of my painting as if that was the land he was living in. I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. And eventually, I started painting the dinosaurs. So that's kind of what happened with the dinosaurs. Um, so his nose on camera right now, because of the angles, if I move this, you guys will see. See, it's not as goofy. So I'm sorry I don't have this down yet. Hopefully next week it'll get a little better. All right, so teeth. Let's start with some teeth in here. And let's also look at where this lunchbox comes to play at on the thing. Now, we're not going to be able to show, I'm going to switch pencils. So that is about out. This angle in here, again, I really want to look at where my angles are on everything. So if this one is like this one is going to mirror it, and it's going to angle into the screen over here. We won't see the other edge of the lunchbox, unfortunately. We're not really going to see the curve either, but hopefully it'll read lunchbox. I don't know. It's dinosaur art. We're just going to go with it. I know that there is some fantastic foliage at the bottom of this. And we're going to get down there in a second, but I just got distracted by his teeth. So he has this one, on this lunchbox, I don't know what happened on this lunchbox design, but he has one tooth on his bottom mouth that is just cattywampus. I mean, it is just sticking out there. It could have been the other jaw tooth that they were trying to imply, but I think it's the funnest tooth because it just sticks there. It's all goofy. So I'm going to draw some teeth on here. Now, these are fabulously pointy teeth, don't you think? I mean, like, they're so pointy on the lunchbox. But I think in real life, because they were chomping on some really hard bones, they probably were gnawed down and were more like his down here. Or this guy on the lunchbox had a really good dino dentist. It could be that he paid the big bucks and the dentist sharpened his teeth. They're more like vampire teeth. They're so sharp. So everybody who's watching, hi. I know we have some new people on tonight. Shout out to everybody who's on. You guys are watching Friday Night Dinos, and we are drawing Doppelganger. Dinosaurs in the mirror maybe appear larger. Actually, they're pretty large, so there you go. I don't know what I'd do if I saw a dinosaur in real life. Like, can you imagine driving down the road and then suddenly, run! Dinosaur comes popping out? I don't know. I think my heart would just give up at that point. But it would be pretty exciting. As we see in the movies. Pretty exciting. And I'm happy to draw these little guys. Okay. Throwing some teeth in there. Again, when you're drawing these, if they're not perfect, don't be hard on yourself. Okay, so this guy even has his little T-Rex hands, and I can only see part of a curvy one. Goes in here behind his mouth. Some bones. It's going to be a little blurry because we don't want to make it too confusing. If I make all the details really sharp, then you're going to be like, it almost looks even right now from my drawing like he's got fire coming out of his mouth. And we know he doesn't have fire coming out of his mouth. Okay, so there's these fun little sections underneath that indicate, I'm guessing, Jurassic plant life, which we know did not fossilize in spiky shapes like this, but it's a fun design. And I'm just going to indicate them. I'm not going to get crazy about these guys. I'm looking at how the patterns sit. They're fun. They've got these great, it's almost like spiky hair to them. And then there's these little cutouts in between now and then. There's a fun little cutout right here. I'm gonna have a cup of tea. Is anybody drawing along? Anyone? The gerbils have to get the messages to me through the thing. I don't think I'm real time on here. All right. Another little hole right there. So I'm looking at this little area underneath. There's a curve up here. These I'm not as set on getting exactly right because they're fun little bits in the background. I think they're a lot of fun. If you want to get them exactly right, go for it. I thought it would be fun just to have them in here because I like the shapes. I like the negative shape that they make, but I'm not worried. Like that one I gave 4 points. There's not 4 points in that. There's little dots and holes that I'm loosely interpreting. And let's see, a little bit right in here. There's that. The rest of this is all filled in, and we've got some shadow under here. So I'll just kind of give an idea of where the shadow is. So we can add a little more detail and build up the drawing before we add paint at this point. So I'm going to start to form his shapes a little bit with line work and some shading. And the first thing I'm going to do in here is work within this ear canal and the shades right in this section. So I'm just rubbing the pencil back and forth so that it gets dark. I start out with light. Sometimes you can cross hatch, you can rub it in little tiny circles, and you can start light and then build it up darker as you draw. So there's a lot of different techniques that you can do. So I'm just going in here, I'm building up some darkness in these eye cavities because this is my, right here, around this eye, this is my darkest place, is the black around his eye. So that's going to be my darkest dark. And then the inside of that eye cavity, it gets pretty shady, but it's not quite as dark as the right side in that eye and then under that eyeball. And whatever medium you guys end up wanting to paint this in, I'll put that yellow in first just to make sure that his eye is nice and bright. So he's got that, and then it comes under here, and there's quite the little brow bone. I'm going to erase out of here just so I can have a highlight, then redraw the top of that. So he's got a nice bright line across the ridge, but it's dark underneath the ridge of that bone right there. So I'm just shading these in, making sure that he's got a nice shape. And then I'm shading it dark right in here. A little looser right there, and I just lighten up the pencil as I do that. Now around this, I'm a little close with my line, so I'm going to clean it out a little bit with the eraser. And then I'm going to come back in and soften where that ridge it gets a little lighter as it curves around the ridge in his face. So where are my lights? I'll start shading this in. Where does it get dark? He's got little bumps on this curve right above where the jaw chunkies go. And then there's a little bit of a dark divot here and a really, really dark divot, as dark as the inside of the eyes, right back here. And then a little one right here. So part of this is color, but part of this is shading with the pencil to fill this space in. Behind here, he has a ridge. And this ridge on the back side has a shadow because it comes back behind and then down. So again, I'm indicating where this all is with the pencil. And coming in here. I have little circles I'm making with my pencil. And this one is a 6B. Soft lead. Unless I really press it, it won't dent the paper. So while it's very messy, it still won't. I've noticed with the harder pencils, it will leave a dent. Now he's got in here, his nostril's pretty dark inside. So we've got a dark nostril, but then he's got these ridges along the front, in between where his teeth come up in the jawbone. So the root of these teeth are going to go way up in there, and he's got these ridges all the way down there. So I'm just shading in between the teeth, and I'm really paying attention where the teeth line up to these ridges so that we don't lose that illusion. And you only see them to about this middle tooth. Now he has a nice dark shadow line underneath his lip before where the teeth are. So I wanted to give that a really nice dark line. And then this nose shape in here, a little bit of shadow in there. And I'm looking to see where it's a little darker here and there within these shapes. Again, I'm going to be adding color, but if we have this form worked out underneath, even a wash of color will make all the difference. And you'll have color, but you have the form underneath that you don't have to repaint a lot if your drawing is solid. It's got some little lines, just some little hints of lines in this gushy stuff in his mouth, in between that jawbone. And then I want to make sure that this is nice and dark underneath this little place, because you can see the shadow where it meets in here. And it is very dark right there at the top of this jawbone. So I just really put a heavy mark on there to indicate that. Now I'm going to put a little bit of color in here and there, so that you can see that that's not, it's not a real light color, but I want a difference so that you can see that there's light hitting the front of his nose. So I did want a little bit of darkness here so that you can see that light right there. So do that. And even this has a little bit of a color. It's like a yellow oak with a touch of ochre in it. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, bottom of his teeth. Again, we're going to come around and draw in here. And now I've got a little darker hint in between. Now I want to make sure before I get too wound up that underneath his jaw I clean up some of my mess from before. And if you have a dry brush around, when you get this much paint on everything, is that a big old line? It is. I must have used my line instead. When you get this much lead on everything where you've got these marks, a brush is a really good tool. Your hand will pick up a lot and smear it. You may have a lot better chance of getting a clean background when you're erasing if you use a dry, clean brush. So make sure it's dry and clean is usually helpful, because if there's any residue that would transfer over to your drawing, even if it's dry, sometimes the pigment will rub onto it. Admittedly, this brush is a little dirty. Just a little. Okay. Let's see. Back of his head. Let's go work on the back of his head. So there's a shadow area in these wrinkles, and I'm going to start to fill these in a little bit. You see, I completely skipped the bottom of his jaw. I don't know if I lost interest or what. I guess I should go back to that. Try to finish it out. At least mark the half that's green so you can kind of see the difference. So we're just going to fill this in, because you can leave this as a drawing. You do not have to add color or paint. Pencil drawings are just beautiful. There are artists out there who only work in pencil, and they're just incredible. Just beautiful, beautiful work that look like black and white photos. I'm going to switch my pencil again because it's getting so dull. Now it is 6:52. I'm just going to keep drawing. We will go till, I'll go until I finish this piece. Feel free at any point. And no, it is Friday night. Some of you have some just fun things going on. Some of you might be tired from your work week. Some of you might just be tired from your week. Now there's a lot going on. I don't know how the weather is where everybody is watching from. Today was a beautiful day in New Mexico. I am broadcasting from New Mexico in the United States, and it was a gorgeous, gorgeous day. Makes me think spring is coming, but I know there's always that last winter storm that just when you think you're done, boom, you're gonna have some snow on the ground. So okay, I'm looking for these little shadow areas inside his neck, because it comes in here and he's got some shadows where the wrinkles are, and there's different colors, and then this rendition of the T-Rex. And it really helps it make it look like a wrinkly gullet that can fill a whole bunch of meat in his throat. Unless he's a Bananasaurus. We did draw Bananasauruses last week. They were vegetarian. So they just stuffed entire bananas down their throat. But I don't know, this guy, he could be more of a Metasaurus than a Bananasaurus. How about a Burgersaurus? We do have one of those on the schedule coming up. He's got a great big giant burger that he'll be excited to eat. The Burgersaurus! You know that it's been about an hour when I start belting out imaginary songs. Okay, neck wrinkles. Neck wrinkles. And there's a few in here. I'm just kind of gonna the idea of it. It is really easy to get lost in some of this pattern and wrinkles when there are so many. Sometimes it is just so hard to figure out where everything is. You kind of have to reset and go, okay, where do I know where something is? And you'll see me do that when I draw. I'll go back and I'll go, okay, I'm losing my space, or else sometimes I just lose interest when I'm drawing. And I'm going, what do I feel comfortable going back to that I know where it is? So I'm going to go back to this little arm because I know where the shadow is in the arm, and I'm going to come in here and I can make a nice little wrinkle line. And I know that it's going to come around like that. There's going to be a mark. It's going to be half gray because there's a little strip of yellow on there. I know that he's got, he's been weightlifting, so he's got a little muscle showing in that arm. I feel like there should be a joke in there. Like, what did dinosaurs use for weights? Okay, that's not a question. All right. So for those who are going to stick on, go west, you're right. I could pause it here and then pick it up again. We have 3 minutes. 3 minutes left in this broadcast. But I'm going to finish it out, and of course, anybody who wants to watch the whole thing can watch it. But before I lose anybody, I would love to know from you all. I will be on until, just so y'all know, I'll stick through this and finish it off. I've got most of the detail in here. A lot of this is painting, what I don't clean up in the drawing. This is all painting, and then of course this is background. So all my detail really is in this dinosaur right here. Okay, so here are the choices of what I'm going to paint in. I'd love you to drop into chat your vote for what you want me to paint it. Think about it. You will see right here I have Prang watercolors. So these are just standard student watercolors. I used those last week on the last bananas. They turned out beautiful. Option 2, take a vote. I'd love to hear from you guys. Colored pencils. Guys, they take forever to draw with, but it'll show you what you can do with just a standard Crayola 12-pack of pencils. Option 3 is what I painted. For those of you jumping in, I'll show you what I painted before. Here it is. You know what? I'm going to move it this way so you can kind of get some close-ups. This is painted with gouache, which is basically opaque watercolor. So it looks like this in this little palette. So give me a vote if you are able to on chat on what you would like me to paint with. I'm going to keep drawing this guy right here and try to finish up some details on the drawing before I start adding color, just so we have a little more detail in here. I've got a hint of, I'm going to erase a little bit in there, add some more wrinkles on his neck. Option 3, gouache, J. Frederick Art. Okay, anybody else? Let's see what you guys are going for. What you're in the mood for me to paint. Let's see, what else we got? Metallic gouache. Metallic gouache was not one of the options, Mid-Lebowski. But I will definitely bring metallic watercolors to one of these dinosaur parties because I think that would be great. Maybe we'll get a disco ball and do, I do have 89's dinos on the schedule. So peach, rose, pink, and blush for colors. Golden pheasant colors. Okay, so you guys are voting for some really fun colors. So let me ask you right now, do you want, Should we make the dinosaur all pinks, maybe? Because that would be kind of fun. Third vote for gouache. Carolyn, thanks for joining today. Whatever colors. Okay, so right now, it looks like we're painting in gouache, everybody, which will be a lot of fun. We're going to paint in gouache. And unless anybody differs, we're going to go with this Valentine's theme with pinks. And he's just going to be like a really, in love dinosaur. He's going to be enamored. In fact, he's going to be in love with this dinosaur behind him. I think that would be a lot of fun. Just, poor Dino. That's just sad. Isn't that sad? Like, not only did they get wiped out by an asteroid, poor dinosaur, he fell in love with himself. I just felt bad. Luckily, they have a good, happy life with me. They are loved. Oh, I have one that, okay, so 701. Okay, we're moving into dinosaur after party. Could you hear that? There you go. He roars. He roars. Jay Fred Regard, because he roared like the one you just found at the thrift store. Probably. Okay, let's see. I got to draw some little dino fingernails real quick so that I don't forget to add them because I cheated and I just drew some blocks in. So we're going to just add some fingers in here, add some shadow down underneath here, throw another one here. And I think we have enough to start painting our dinosaur. I think he's pretty much there. You see my lazy scribble? I got wild over here and I just started to do a lazy scribble. Celia loves art. Gouache too. Okay, we'll do colored pencils again down the line. So we'll get back to colored pencils. We'll do some gouache for right now. Go West. The sentiment is the dinosaur is longing for the lunchbox. Oh, yeah, no kidding, right? We're going to assume there's something tasty inside that dinosaur box, the lunch box. So he's just longing for whatever he's going to eat inside of there. Okay. Let's get the water out and the brushes. And I'm going to leave the palette over here. I'm going to move this one so that you guys can see this. So I'm going to leave the palette right here so that I want you to be able to see what I mix. I think that's important, and I missed it last week. So hopefully you can really start to see how I mix these colors in the paint. This is gouache. Gouache is an opaque watercolor. It has an opaque pigment in it, and it works like watercolor. It's resoluble like watercolor. If I add it on to this painting and then I add another layer, I can mix the colors together or they'll dissolve together. But I can go really thin, which I'll start out with thin washes, and then I can start to work thinner and get it nice and opaque. So there's a lot that we can do with it. So since we are doing pinks and peaches and reds, I'm going to start with a very light yellowish peach in his highlight area. So that's going to be, and I'm going to be very gentle when I lay this color on, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to make a mess with the pencil and gray it out. So I'm cleaning it on the cloth. I'm going in here and I'm laying that color right over his face. I pick it up on the palette. You'll see me pick it up here on the palette. I'll probably move this a little closer to the camera. Okay, where else? There is light colors. So I'm going to put a little light in there. Now I need to mix a little more. So I used a little bit of, basically it's a red, Tepicha, and yellow with two different yellows. And then I thinned it out with water. So I added that in there. And now I'm adding to his lighter highlighty areas. And it might need just a little more yellow. It's really mixing with the pencil quickly. So I go up here and I go, well, there's his nice highlights on his back, his little hands. And hopefully you guys can see these bright colors come in. And his chest down below. He's got a little tiny touch of it on his belly. And then right up in here, but more right there, little hint under there. Ooh, and then I forgot to do something that I promised I would do. One of the things I'm most worried about is preserving the bright yellow in his eye. So I'm going to look in my handy dandy drawer, which has all kinds of junk in it. And I'm going to get teeny tiny brush, teeny tiny brush, and bright yellow, just pure bright. The brighter, the lemonier, the better. And I'm going to drop this in his eye. Because I don't want that to mix with anything, and I want it to stay really, really bright. So mix that right in his eye. And then, let's see, he's got a little more right in here. I want to make sure that I get all these little places where I see these highlights and these colors before we start adding some pinks onto him. Okay, so I want to give him some pink now, and I'm just going in with pure pink to kind of see how this looks over the dark areas. So remember, this is from imagination at this point. We have the dinosaur in front of us, but we're mostly working with some big imagination with these colors. Now, remember what I said is I had already put in a lot of detail on this dinosaur when I used the pencil. And that saves us because you can see I'm watering down these gouaches. And so you're able to see all of the difference in the wrinkles and stuff underneath. Let's see. Mid Lebowski said, to me, I get the impression of this dinosaur seeing his extinct outline in the shadow of the world-killing meteor strike. This is like a Rorschach. Boy, that's pretty deep. It's Friday night. That is pretty deep. We've got, so the 7 to 8 o'clock hour is deep dinosaur talk. Okay, back to the dinosaur. Okay, I'm just going in here, and what I'm doing is I'm taking this pink wash that I made, and it is straight up. It's actually a magenta color. Believe that it is, for all of those of you, and I know there's a number of you who love colors and art out there, I believe that is quinacridone magenta that I have watered down and am using. Again, it does look like watercolor right now, but I assure you it is gouache. And I'm going to go down here on his arm. I'm going to go on this other arm right here. I got to leave some of it because I need to come back. The whole top of this jaw is that color. And then around here, I'm going to clean that brush because I am picking up lead from the pencil. I usually feel after I get one wash on that the lead is sealed a little bit. It always feels like that. I don't know if that's actually happening or not. I'm not sure of like what happens chemically with the lead when I add water and pigment, but that's what it feels like. And then back here, we're going to fill this in back here with his belly. All right. And then let's see, what have we got going on over here? Almost all the way up on that ridge line. Peachy pinks, peachy pinks. Dinosaur lovin'. Okay, I'm gonna use my teeny tiny brush and that little area inside of his mouth, I think instead of pink, I want it to look a little different. So I'm using more red orange in between. And then go back to this other mix for his hand and under his palm. A little more in here. I want to blend this right here a little bit, so I'm going to rub that together. And again, I'm going to come in here under this rib right there. Okay, so now let's see. We're going to put a little bit of that peachy color in, and I'm just going to start to build it up a little bit. But let's go ahead, because I can't stand it. Let's talk about the lunchbox for a second. So do you want to go ahead and have me paint the lunchbox with the blues? Because I think that might be really fun to go ahead and do the lunchbox. Or do we go with an entire peach theme? We can do either. I'll keep an eye out. I'll keep working on this before you decide the lunchbox. Can't set the shadows on that until we know what we're doing with that. So I'll just start putting some more color in here and in here. This little section is darker, so I just put another layer right there, back in there, picking up more of the magenta, and I'm putting it in these shadow areas. So right here, here under the brow bone, and then right in here along the edge. Okay, let's see what we got here. I want to blend this a little bit into that shadow area on the top of his mouth. Then I might even, I'm going to see if I make a really pretty purple. So I mixed over here on the palette, I mixed ultramarine blue and quinacridone, I don't know, quinacridone magenta, and to make an even darker color, like a really, like a purpley color for in these shadow areas. Because I want to make sure that it gets nice and shadowed in there. So dropping that in. J. Frederick, keep the lunchbox blue, gray, and white. Yeah, it might be really nice because I really love those colors. I think that would be kind of fun to keep them like that. I'm down with that. I'm going to add some of these little divots up here on his back. Now, if you guys are painting at home or when you paint, make it your own. Again, You're painting, you're giving an impression of things. So every line, unless you are going for photorealism, does not have to be exact. I am trying to give you guys some really good tips for drawing and composition and how to look at all your shapes and in between your shapes, and then just some fun thinking outside the box. And I think it's just so fun to interact with all of you and see what should we do with this next? How can we make it fun? I think what we should do is have also, and maybe I need to paint them in here, or it's Valentine's theme, right? So maybe we need to do something really fun, like we're just going to put into this design some little heart shapes. And if I put these in here, because then we'll know why we did. You know, this is his story. He's just got, I didn't fill these in completely. I left little marks and divots because everything on this brush, this lunchbox is supposed to be really worn and kind of old and scratched up. It looks like, you know, like the metals really kind of scratched and fun. So let's see, go West. Lunchbox in sunset colors and the dino shadow in purple. Man, we are just, it is one fun, love-sick dinosaur tonight. He's in love. He's in love with the lunchbox. I'm putting more shadow lines in, if you're wondering what I'm doing. Do not have the color perfected on my screen yet. I can tell what I'm seeing and what you guys seeing. There's a little more. It's close. It's actually pretty close. It's not bad. I was afraid it would be. There's a little more contrast to what you're seeing than what I'm seeing. So a little more drama. But there is quite a bit of drama in this, so I must just think I have less drama than I do, when in fact I have all kinds of drama. Retro lunchbox. Well, let's see. Do we have another vote? We have one vote for J. Frederick Art voted for keeping it the same, the lunchbox blue, gray, and white. Go West said sunset colors. And then the dino shadow in purple. So just there's some heavy thinking there on Friday night to make some decisions for Friday night dinos. You have a thought on that, jump in. You've got a little bit of time before I start painting it. There's a little bit of a shadow in here. Ooh, and I want to get that blue in his teeth. I do want the blue in his teeth. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue and a little bit of white and just paint that right on his teeth. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow too after this dries touch, because right now they look too cold and I need them to look a little more real. They just look like icicle teeth. They're so cold. I'm going to warm them up a little bit. Now they just look like he's having a really bad tooth day. But they at least look now like they belong in his face. With just the blue, they didn't look like they belonged in his face. So that's always a little scary. Okay, let's do, I'm going to take the pink. Now I'm adding white. I want a little more opaque. So the only way that I can make it a little more opaque is to add white. I'm adding some white. And I might want some of that peach color in there too. I like that a lot. I'll add a little bit of that. And where am I going to add that? Maybe in here. And you should be able to see some of this on, yeah, you can start to see. Again, it's not quite as dramatic in person as on screen. So I think I have the contrast up a little too high. Oh, Leva! Leva P, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Sunset colors it is. Okay, Leva, you get the vote. You said sunset colors, so we're going to go with that. Okay, so we're going to do some sunset colors. Sunrise, sunset. And that's going to match really well because it's going to be all, we're going to do some peachy brights, some yellows. And I think what I'll do with that is kind of like simulate them, but not in the same order as a sunset. So I'm going to bring some of that peach where the light is in between these things in here, right in here. Use that in between here. And a little bit of orange. Like the light is coming from inside his mouth. And you guys saw, I did not hesitate, man. I just started throwing some color down there. There it goes, all that color. Now there's going to be some of that in. I probably should clean the inside of his eyeball right here up a little bit. I should have done that before. I didn't. Bad me. So clean that up a little bit and try to brush it off where the paint is. And then bring that bright color in here inside his eyes, his cavities, and the bone. So we're working on that shape out there. I usually, even on my watercolors, I tend to like to leave a lot of pencil marks and things. I think it's fun to see the artist's hand, and it makes it a little less imperfect. So often you'll see that in my work. If you look up close, you're going to see some marks and some lines. Some people don't like to do that. And either way is fine. You really just need to find your own voice when you paint and just love the process. Just love making art and painting because that is such a joy just to be able to create stuff. And it's such a gift. You know, if all of you, I don't know how many of you paint. I know some of you don't, some of you do. Or even just drawing. I guarantee that every one of you was a great artist when you were 4 and 5. Guaranteed. You told everybody. You're proud of everything you did. You showed it off. And then unfortunately something happens when we're growing up and we start analyzing and overthinking and then we don't think we're good enough and just draw for the sake of drawing, even if you're doodling. It's just so fun. So hope everybody gets inspired. Where I come in with my happy little trees. This is looking more like Lunchbox on fire. The colors are a lot brighter in person, FYI, so we'll work on that. Let me tell you, just getting my settings so that you can see this and it doesn't focus 12 times, that was a chore. Holy cow. Figured it out. There was an app for that. So happy. Okay. Yeah, so now we got to figure out, do we put this dino in shadow since we've got this bright sunset? It's almost like, the clouds will be like a deep purple. Maybe we do a deep purple blue in there for the darker dino behind. That might be really kind of fun. I'm gonna just put this guy in here. I don't worry about going over the edges. So one of the things I like to do, you saw when I started drawing, for those of you who were with me on the beginning stage of this, I'll start working on it, and then if I need to redo my composition, I will either erase or I will move my box, and I'll give myself enough room on this page that I can move that box. But I also don't worry about going outside or over these lines. Sometimes I'll even erase part of them so I can go bigger and then crop in to try to decide what the best crop will be when I frame it. So I use them as a guide, not a rule. Leva, I'm so glad you liked the sunset. This is kind of fun to do, these sunset kind of colors in here. And I can add some pink to that. Orange, bring that in. I am really watering this wash down. So again, I usually work it a lot darker, but it's nice today to just water it down. But I have the option to come in and do some darker colors as well. So I'm just going to come in here, these darker pinky peach colors, and my sunset colors. I need to switch my brush for these little dots in here. Grab some color. Put them in these negative shapes right in here. And then we do have a border on this box, so I need to make sure that I don't neglect that. Many shapes. I'm just using 2 brushes tonight. I might grab a different brush as we go. This has worked just fine. I have a flat, and it's just a really inexpensive, like I actually got this at a yard sale back in Pennsylvania when I was visiting my parents. And this person had this whole great big bin of inexpensive brushes, and I got them, and I love this thing. It's so fun. So goes to show you don't have to have the most expensive materials in the planet. Although we all know I love art materials, so. There's nothing wrong with having them either. All right, come in here. Back to oranges. Go around these hearts a little bit so you can kind of see them and know they're there. And leave that little spot of light in there like that. Bring some of this orange in down here. I want to contrast behind his face so you can really see him. So I am thickening up the paint and just bringing a bright orange in, and then bringing some of that back here behind his head. Because why not, right? And that makes it so fun. Bring some of that back over here, this corner. And then, of course, look, I neglected this whole area up here. So I'm just going to bring some of that in, wash this down, add some pink. throw that in there. Okay. Now I want a couple things. I want to make sure that this background right here is, we've got to make a choice. I either leave it light or I make it a lot of fun shadow. I think the contrast will be really nice, but I have to make sure that it's different than this color that I use in here. So I've got to decide what our best option for this guy and the borders are. Part of me thought that a blue or a purpley blue. I want to see how this mixes in here. I've got too dirty too quick because I have some other colors in here. I think I have some of the red in my pink. So we're going to clean some of that out. I'm just taking the brush, scooping up the color to clean it in the pan. And then I clean this off and I wipe it like this. You can also use another paper towel or a sponge. I'm incredibly lazy. So I'm just using my brush. And I'm going to put some of this pink down. Wash my brush out so I don't contaminate it. I want to try this light blue and see what color I get. More blue than that. So that's one option, but I don't think it's nearly as pretty as the blue and the pink quinacridone. So it depends. That does look like a sky though. That's what's really nice because I could use that darker purple as darks. So that kind of wins my day. I talked myself out of it and then I talked myself back in it. And it's like one of those deep cloudy, sunset, the cloud shadows in sunset. That's what we're going for with this guy. Thanks, J. Frederick Art. Hanging in there. Thanks everybody who's hanging in with me. Okay, here's my bad joke. I hope it's not like watching paint dry. Okay, that was a really bad joke. I'm sorry, everybody. I probably dropped 3 viewers from that. Really bad joke. It's like a category. Dinosaur artists who make really bad jokes. All right, coming in here. I'm going to mix some more. Ran out. So we're going to mix some more up. More blue. I like when it changes the colors too. Like I like that you can see some color change within this and I just let it do its thing. I don't force it. I let the colors merge into each other. Some variation. Nate Lebowski is still deep in dinosaur thought with the sunset and exploding giant meteor. Nate Lebowski, you are just bad news for dinosaurs. Bring some of this back down into his jaw, down here. And then I'm going to use my little brush so that I don't completely wreck his teeth, because I will. Oh, I just mixed some wrong colors in there. Okay, so need a new pool of color. I made a mess with I had orange in it. I didn't clean it, which isn't the end of the world, but it was not the color I was going for. Now this mix varies even from the other one, which is okay. I'm gonna go with it. Big old teeth. Rawr. Now, if I add some white to this, and you'll see in here, get it nice and opaque. I want to see what happens when I add some of this in here and mix that in. How does that look? And if we add even more white, can kind of brush it like that brushed metal as we get more and more white and less water. I don't think it's picking up on screen very well. It's kind of a nice, fun technique. Now I'm going to clean my brush and get the white even brighter and brush that lightly over just a little bit, back and forth. All right, gives it just a little variation. You can see a hint of it on screen, but it's not translating. It could also be my screen on the computer, and my room is really bright. I'm going to take the same color mix that I just did before I added the same way, same technique. I'm mixing some of it so it's more of a transparent color first. And we've got two parts to do. We've got to do the border of the lunchbox. So I'm just going to come right around here. And I'm hitting that border right in here. And then down underneath. There's the bottom of it. Now I also need to come in and hit all these fun little gnarly objects. I will most likely need to switch to my other brush because they're pretty little. Some of it I can get with it. So I'll do that in there. Boy, time flies when you're painting dinosaurs. Thank you all for hanging in tonight and joining me, supporting the channel. I hope that if you haven't subscribed, I hope that you subscribe. I'm not quite sure how it works if you get alerts. I hope you get alerts by subscribing. But know that I'll be on Friday nights. I'm even looking at how I can do. I'm going to be out of town a few times this summer, and I'm looking at how I can do it. And then I definitely know that some of my artist friends who are on here, I'd love you at some point to jump in and join me. We can do a dinosaur paint off or just something really fun, or dueling dinosaurs. So definitely some fun things planned in the future. I have a whole year's worth of episodes planned out. Plein air dino, yes, if we can get enough, I don't know how many of you know this, but I paint plein air, and I like to be outside in nature. And I have even taken the dinosaurs outside and painted them in nature, like a portrait of a dinosaur toy outside, which is very fun and a little bit dorky, which is okay to just be fun and silly. But if I can get enough connection to my phone to do that, I think it would be fun to bring everybody outside and have you see what it's like to paint outside in the elements, in all the elements, with the cold and the bugs and the wind and the people who come up and chat. if I forget to tell you all, I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Take some time out for yourself. I hope you have beautiful weather and just a nice day. No stress. Eat some chocolate. I'm gonna eat some chocolate tonight. Oh yeah. I'm trying to stay out of the chocolate for the most part, but I'm going to eat some chocolate tonight. Okay, what's going on in here? I've got all kinds of crazy stuff with his mouth and the dinosaur behind him, in his mouth with their little arms, and it's a little confusing in here, so we'll just kind of try to clean that up a little bit. I'm also going to paint in some of the areas that I see down here that might help resolve that. So, nope, that didn't help. Okay, watching me fail. That's good. Carolyn, happy Valentine's Day to you. Yes, perfect for the dino occasion. I'm just going to put some dark stuff back here. That might help resolve it. Yep. I think the values were too close. There wasn't enough of a difference so you could see what was going on behind it. So I just darkened it up. Given the shadows, that's okay. Still kind of looks like something's coming out of his mouth. I really don't like the something coming out of his mouth look. I'm going to bring it back down. So I'm going to take the water, clean the brush out, rub it a little bit. I'm going to shadow the inside of this. And I'm going to mix up white, a little yellow. Vague out, make it vague right in here. What's going on with those little hands? Maybe a little more orange. And be careful because it starts to look green, which is okay. It's a dinosaur painting. Shadow, what's that gonna cast? Put a shadow in here and under. You'll see, I don't know if actually you won't see, you can't see my hand in here. What I did was this. So I put my hand on the table and I put my other hand underneath it and I used it to brace that hand so that when I drew a solid line, I had it braced and then I do a line across. So I went down and then under, and my hand is really holding that to one spot. So back here on the back part here, I want this dark. I'm going to first put in like a dark purpley red. I'm just throwing some red. Hopefully you guys can see this on my palette, and some blue. And I'm painting that in there. And adding that in. I like that a lot back behind that. I think it's just a nice weight and it makes this all pop out really well. And then on the floor, I think a baby blue would be really nice. So I'm just going to take white and blue and fill this in down here. The light blue again. I don't really know what's going on. I think I'll even, soften that shadow so it feels like a shadow, like I mixed those two colors. So it's dark under that edge, but not near that shadow. And then I'm going to clean my brush real well. Wipe out some of this baby blue from there, but not all of it. Clean it again. Pick up some white. And just like I did on top, I kind of want to make this brushed look, and that's kind of to give it the brushed metal look. So I'm streaking loosely the white through this little area in here. Just kind of doing some streaky brushed metal by lifting the color and laying that on top, throwing it in. And it just gives it a really nice feel. And we can even add some of that in here. What's going on back behind his teeth. Leave some of the shadows on there. So you know something's going on, but you don't really know what's going on. And it's not too confusing. It's confusing, but not too confusing. I'm mumbling. I'm over here mumbling to myself. Okay, I think I need to work on the dinosaur a little more. We'll leave this for right now. The stuff that I've got going on with the background. Still may add some bright yellow in here. What I'm doing, if you're wondering what I'm doing, is I really didn't like those legs coming out of his mouth. I should have made that decision right away. I knew, because I addressed it, that it was confusing to have these little things coming out. They looked, because of where they were positioned, it looked like he had forked tongue or some kind of snake tongue or monster tongue coming out of his mouth. And so that was something that I'm correcting now. I recognized it and I could have corrected it early on, and then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, which is called noodling. So just trying to make sure that you're designing a piece as well. Just because it's there doesn't mean that you have to put it there. Just because you see it in front of you, you can remove things. So keep that in mind when you're making your art. It's your piece of art. We changed all the colors in this piece, and we moved anything that we thought we needed to move. We're just gonna move it around. I added a little bit of black now to my purple. So I had mixed a purple up, then I just added a little bit of black, and I'm still coming in here on these shadows and divots and little marks and marking things up to highlight them. I think he needs a little bit of TLC. I'm going to do some more yellow in here on his nose. So now I'm really starting to look and say, okay, where does he need, where do we do the little details? Where do we bring in some light? So around that nostril, there's some light around that nostril, okay? Some light right here, along here. Some yellow up here on top of his head. Where's the light hitting? We make more of a peachy pink. I need to clean my pink out. It's very dirty. So I'm going to scoop some of this up, put it on the tablecloth, and add a little bit of that to my peach right here. And that's still going to be not quite the color I want. I think that may be closer to what I want for that bottom jaw. I just feel like it's too bright, so we've just got to add something. Now, it's very close to the value below it, and that concerns me. So I'm going to wipe some of that up again, and I'm even going to add some yellow and white in there to bring it back again and make it glow, and then make the top part of his jaw darker. So go back in here with the maroon. Quinacridone magenta, more like it. And I don't want it so striped, so I'm going to bring that together. I want it to blend really well together. So I kind of just blended them into each other. We've got about 10 more minutes. Boy, this went fast tonight. We're pretty much done. I'm down to like small little details. Giving him some form, making sure that I didn't leave bare spots. This is pretty unfinished back in here. And you don't have to finish everything completely. Sometimes it's nice to leave marks or a hint of something that's just a little, I don't know, less finished. Just makes it kind of fun. All I can say is you all are my best Valentines. I'm so glad you joined me tonight. And I'm just so grateful that you came out and are watching. And I hope you had a good time tonight watching dinos. Friday Night Dinos. Just giving him a little more form on his back. I think he needs a little more on the back of this head right here. Maybe too dark. It's pretty dark, but I like it. I like the pink. Go West, do you like the theme? Do you like the colors? You guys, this was a lot of fun. So fun to go, not just replicate what I see, because I do that all the time, but to really this really makes me work hard. I will tell you all, this is not, I have to really think about it. I have to really think about what colors I'm putting down, and it makes my brain work hard. So thanks for giving me a good challenge tonight. This was a very good challenge. Leva, I'm so glad that you hung in here and hung out with us tonight. I hope you have a great weekend. If anybody is watching the Super Bowl, have a great time. I hope you have some great food, because that seems like the most, what's everybody eating? I love that. Any good recipes? This is his old leg just in there. A little more pink. I'm going to bring a little more pink in here. Kind of have this unresolved area underneath his wrinkles right here and shadow. It just needs a little more. And then these guys, I just completely neglected the humps on the back of his body, but we don't see that many of them. So we're going to just leave that. I think it's okay. I'm going to bring a little more color in here and in here and right there. And a little more pink. And he certainly is a love bug. He is a love bug of a dinosaur. Okay, a little bit with this brush. I'm watching that time. Under 5 minutes. feel like it's a cooking show. Like, bakers, you have 5 minutes. Annie C, thanks for joining us. I hope you're having a great time. Happy Valentine's Day. We went with a Valentine's Day theme, and if you're just joining in, I don't know how much you saw tonight, but thank you all. J. Frederick Art, thank you so much. Thanks for joining me. You will be able, if you caught just part of this, you can watch this for Twitch on the next week under Wendy Makes Art. I am going to be back on Tuesday night with an unboxing of the art toolkit. That's what I'm painting in right now. I bought some more of these because I loved it so much, and I'm going to set up some palettes. So if anybody's curious about that and wants to see it, those are going to be on Tuesday nights, Tuesday night tool tips. It'll be a little later, probably about 7 o'clock, and I don't know how long they'll last, just to kind of share some of my favorite art tools, since I absolutely love art tools. And maybe there's something artists out there I haven't tried and want to see. So that is a Tuesday night program. And then I'll be back on Friday for Friday Night Dinos again. And hope to see you all back. Put a really dark shadow underneath this box so that it reads as a shadow. Again, I just took my hand and I put it on the table down here, and then I went across in order to brace that hand and make a nice straight line. And I'm going to fill this shadow area right there behind him in. I think I could have a little more darkness also right back in here, right under his teeth a little bit. So pretty much it. Typically, I may come back and look at it tomorrow and noodle it a little bit. Sign your art. That's the last big thing, is sign your name somewhere. This is a little different, so I'll probably sign it like right in here. I'll take a magenta, my small brush. I'll make a real thick like paste with it. I brace my hand, okay? And then I sign it. If you're new to art and it makes you uncomfortable, you can always sign with a Sharpie, a pencil. Thank you, Go West Fine Art. Thanks so much for hanging out. But pretty much sign with anything you want. That's it for this evening. I hope you all had a good time. Have a great Super Bowl weekend. A happy, happy Valentine's Day next week. And thank you just all so much for joining me. I'm going to say au revoir. Oh, wait, one more. We have one more moment. I think we need a goodbye from the dinosaur. So let's give the dinosaur, he'll roar for a second. For those of you, if you didn't catch this crazy moment, we'll give one last giant roar for mankind. Woo! Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.